Wow, this was embarrassing. This was one of the worst team performances I've ever seen in God knows how long. We looked pathetic. And you guys know I'm not someone who comes here with a lot of rants and a lot of emotion. There is going to be something constructive in this review, but I have to address what I saw in front of my eyes today. And today it was this simple, yeah? We were individuals and we lost to a team. You looked at Arsenal. Look how compact their shape was. The players knew exactly the distances to keep from each other to be able to press us. They pressed us man to man throughout and we struggled to play out from the back. You can see their passing passages where the players know where to be on and off the ball at all times. And Arsenal are a testament to why patience is needed, because Arteta had many struggles during the start, but with proper investment, with an identity in which they believe in and which they're sticking to as well too, they're reaping the rewards, and currently they're top of the table. Our recent record versus Arsenal has been abysmal, and it's bringing back those terrible memories I used to have as a kid back during the start of the 2000 periods where Arsenal are that bogey team you could never ever get a result against. I thought those days were behind. But in the past 7 games, we've won 1 game, and that came from Lukaku's debut. We've lost 6 games to Arsenal. They've outplayed us in all those games as well too. And maybe they're starting to show that if you have a manager with a proper philosophy that you stick to and buy into, eventually you'll get results. And maybe we have to finally accept that as Chelsea fans, yeah, because today we couldn't compete with Arsenal at all. Who would have thought that? It's ironic that we've lost to another Gabriel set-piece winner, just like we did a few months back under Tuchel as well too. And it's kind of showing you that we have not improved whatsoever. We've spent nearly 300 million in the market, and it's not had any real strong tangible effect in terms of the quality in this team. And for me, that was a worrying thing. And that was one thing I've always suspected in the back of my head. We've got good players here, but when you're signing your Kukureyas for over 60 mil, when you're signing Sterling's, you're giving him 400,000 a week. Signing Koulibaly's, he's on 400,000. He's not even getting in the team as well too. Something's telling me that was the strategy in this window on point. I'm not too sure. Of course, we know that Thomas Tuchel in the window had full say and power in terms of the players he wanted to sign. And then, he probably wanted to have more time to work with these guys to build more understanding. We know why he got sacked. Him and Todd Bowley fell out. So I guess it's come down to Graham Potter, who has a massive undertaking in his hands right now. And there could be some interesting questions like, currently, is this job too big for him? Does he know what he's doing? Is the pressure too much? I guess time will tell. Maybe it could be a bit unfair to come to these conclusions straight away. But I can understand why people will feel that, because we haven't shown or haven't seen too many signs of improvements. Not even like a little bit of like structure, like a bit of identity. Under Graham Potter currently, we've seen different systems, different tactics, and then those systems and tactics change in all the games we're playing in, but we're playing 3-4 different ways. Is that just a bit too much for the players to be able to understand and fully grasp when there's no like set identity and structure? Because for me, we lost the game today because we were individuals with no structure whatsoever. And let me tell you this here, when I'm seeing Thiago Silva, one of the best players in the league, one of the best defenders in the world still, when this guy is reverting to playing long balls out from the back, when we know that he plays between the lines, where we know what he can do with the ball at his feet when he's passing from deep, when he's been reverted to having to pump long balls out from the back to find guys like Sterling and Coles up front, something's telling me the structure is completely wrong. You've not given a single framework for these guys to be able to play. And that is the most frustrating thing for me. That's what disappoints me the most. Now, of course, the players were poor too, but I'm sorry, guys, we have to understand. When you're playing against one of the top teams in the league in Arsenal, the game is won in many different layers and factors. You have to get your tactics on point here, because Arsenal had their game plan to nullify us playing out from the back, which they did very well. When you're comparing that to a team that had no solutions or ideas to play through that, you've already lost that type of battle. I'm looking at the distances on the field. I saw no compactness from the team whatsoever. When players are receiving wide, when players are on the ball, who's the option near them to pass to play with, to play through Arsenal? It wasn't existent. So it comes down to this. Of course, there's opportunities where players in individual moments could have, maybe been more press resistant, done the right option. But then once you go past that phase and go to the next phase, they're on the ball and it's like, who the hell am I passing to? All the wingers are high and wide. The attackers, the distances between the midfield and attack were non-existent. They were too far. They were too big. And when you're playing at this level and players just don't really know what they have to do with the ball at the right times, you're going to create yourselves a lot of issues and you'll get found out in the end eventually. This is the importance behind having that framework for the team to play from. How many examples, especially in that second half, have we seen pointless backwards passes being played? Where's the options in midfield to receive? They couldn't even do that because they're getting man-marked by Arsenal players. But then when you look past the midfield, you're like, where's the attacking players to be able to drop deep, to relieve that pressure, to receive in the holes, and of course allow the midfield, of course, to have more passing options to play with? It didn't exist. And when you're seeing players' lives being made a lot harder in terms of being able to do anything influential on the ball, for me, this ultimately will come down to the manager. How many times was he making tweaks in this game? We saw in the first half. And I can kind of understand why we played that way in the first half, even though it was boring, one of those typical tactical battles you see left, right and centre. Now, of course, against Zagreb, we saw this like 4-2-1-2 system, 4-3-3. It worked well, but come on, we're playing against Zagreb, Dynamo Zagreb. You can afford to take more risks. We still saw though in those games that there were times where our midfield was opened up. And Potter was probably thinking against Arsenal, I want to maintain this way because at least it looks like we can create something. But I want the team to drop their lines deeper. I want to make sure we can nullify Arsenal in the wide areas because Saka and Martinelli are two of the most informed wingers in the league. Arsenal are incredibly dangerous on the left-hand side with Xhaka making those late man runs inside the box. Martinelli can toss anyone in the league at this point in time too. I'm going to mitigate that threat. I'm going to reduce the gaps that we create for Arsenal to exploit. And we are going to sit deep defend because our game plan is to play balls in behind to find Aubameyang, Raheem Sterling and Kai Havertz. One or two occasions it worked. It was down to Kai who flopped those moves left, right and centre. Simple cutback passing opportunities where you could have found Aubameyang who literally evaded his man in the box with that near post run. Two occasions you had to play the pass quickly there. Who knows what can come from a game like this, because ultimately if you have a goal to protect, that will change how the complexion in this game is. But then this kind of sums up like how we've plateaued. This kind of sums up how we've not really improved, because to this day, you're seeing zero attacking understanding whatsoever, and it's getting way too much now. And I feel there's so many conversations behind why we've plateaued and why we're not going anywhere fast. We spent hundreds of millions in the window. I wasn't as excited, to be honest with you. Of course, we know that Thomas Tuchel had the license to sign the players he wanted, so it's not really ideal that him and Todd Bowley fell out. So Potter, you could argue, is now inheriting a squad that he wouldn't necessarily want in particular. I'm looking at how we attack now. We've moved away from having Chelsea forwards like your Diego Costas, your Drogbas, those types of figures that can hold the ball, that can drop deep, that can allow the midfield players to push up as well too. We don't have that. We've gone to this new style of guys who run in behind, who don't really touch the ball. And it's just like for a team like us in a game like this where you need to, escape the pressure. You want to rely on your teammates to at least bring the team up a little bit more. You can't do that when you've got Aubameyangs and Sterlings, with Aubameyang having a pitiful game today, not involved whatsoever. But what can he really do when he's not that type of striker to begin with, who is going to hold the ball up for nothing? This is what I mean by, if we want to improve, one of the most important things we have to do is start getting the business right in terms of what team you want to be and the players we sign to become that team, because, this amalgamation of different players playing together, I can see why Potter's struggling to find the right proper balance, because I've always felt, to be honest, we've not really had a proper balance. You're looking at your Man Cities, your Liverpools, even your Arsenals now. They've signed players to play a specific way of football, and they've given managers time to build and create that. We always keep chopping and changing the plans left, right and centre. I'll be looking forward to seeing what we do in January, because it seems like we're going to have to do something. But currently, I don't know what my best team is. I look at Jorginho, Kovacic, these guys have a great understanding, they can help us play through. But then who are you partnering them to take advantage of how they play and pass? We have to be like a slow possession team, which we were under Thomas Tuchel. But then that was coming at the expense of the attacking players who want to be receiving balls in behind a lot faster, which you're not going to get from that midfield. So if you want to move on to a midfield where you can play a lot more direct and a lot more vertical, well, the issue is that you become a lot more open in the transition and teams can counter-attack you very easily out wide. This is what I mean by having a mismanaged squad, because you'll never find the right solutions to build proper consistency. And that's my main fear and worry now. I'm looking at Potter. How many different formations tweaks, changes are we seeing left, right and centre to no avail with no improvements? You know, this was very easy for Arsenal today. And I'll be honest with you, even though the players were poor, they still tried. But it's just like, what could they really try to do and what could they really bring? I'm sorry, the gaps, distances, there was no connections. Players weren't playing close to each other whatsoever. You know, I was looking in that second half. I was kind of thinking to myself, why was Bro even on? I probably would have put on Pulisic. Why? Just so Cucurella can have a passing option on the left-hand side, yeah? Cucurella was getting double marked in the end by Saka. And there's no surprise why in the second half, their wingers were starting to find a lot more spaces in those wider areas because as a team, as a unit, we were falling apart. You know, every substitution that came on didn't really do anything and didn't change the complexion of the game whatsoever. I mean, you're seeing things like that, yeah? It's a lot deeper for me. If I was to say something, I feel like Potter has to find a way of playing and stick to that, even though it will come with issues. We will be exposed at times. We will give away sloppy goals. But as long as there's like something that can be built from, a platform that's created, a foundation, that's the most important thing. Because he's in this crossroads right now where he wants to try and develop a philosophy whilst at the same time, you know, he has to balance out the score for fitness reasons, whilst at the same time, you know, having to get results in games. And I mean, you have all these things you're trying to find solutions for in periods where you have no time to work with the team. I'm sorry, you have to go back to basics and keep things simple. At least if the team can kind of understand what they have to do on the field, instead of it being like, you know, it's been over 10 games and we played differently in every single game under Porter so far. How are these guys eventually going to find any type of structure or balance when they're playing? And in a game like this, against top quality opposition, we got shown out differently. We could not compete whatsoever. You know, our only way of being able to compete was by stifling our attacking sense, was by trying to stop Arsenal from playing, which stopped us doing anything against them. This is not how to do things, yeah? Give the players the confidence to express at least and find that way you want to, find a way of football you want to stick to, for God's sake, and build from that at least. And we'll take the results that come, because at least we'll know that we're building something that can improve and can go somewhere, instead of it being this amalgamation of everything that's producing absolutely nothing. So you guys, they're my thoughts and opinions. I'll probably release another video today because, yeah, I got a lot more thoughts after such a diabolical performance like this year. So share your thoughts and opinions. How did you feel? I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Catch you guys later.